Good evening, everyone. It's just gone 8 o'clock and it's time for episode 75 of Wilson Waffling Live. Run titles. Wilson Waffling, yay! Hello everyone, hello and welcome to episode 75, 3/4 of the way to 100 episode. Welcome to Wilson Waffling Live, episode 75 on this Monday evening at 8 o'clock. I'm a bit flushed because it's a bit hot here and I did have my window open to let some air through, but then it was sort of like rattling the blind and it was rattling this, that and the other, and it was a little bit difficult to hear, so I sort of like moved it, I closed it, and now I'm getting hot. So welcome to Wilson Waffling Live. If you are watching this in the live show, then by all means don't forget there is a chat just over there, and you by all means, you also like a bit down there actually I think, or it might be directly over there. By all means type in it. I am looking on it on my other computer, so if you do chat then I will be able to see it and interact with you. Also, please do remember that you can join me on Twitter. And you can see the little my Twitter name here at iWilsonYSJ. So by all means, tweet me at any time throughout the show, and I'll keep an eye on there. Or you can use the hashtag which is down here, hashtag YSJPrimeEd, if you don't particularly want to follow me. Now then, let me just move you over there and put a bit of light on the subject. There you go. Oh, bright light, bright light. Welcome to this week's show. We're going to have the usual format of the show, but before we go any further, I need to bring you up to date. I need to bring you up to date on last week's video. Now, remember, I've set myself a bit of a challenge every week to get some views and some likes, okay? And we started off with quite low views, and then we slowly been moving up, and I set my views last week for episode 74 of 20 views and 5 likes. 20 views and 5 likes. Now, I'm currently at this moment just checking the video, and we've got, drum roll, don't know if you can hear that drum roll, we have got 29 views, yay! 9 over the top, which is absolutely fantastic, and 1 like. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean that you love watching it? You all watched it but didn't like it. Is that what it is? Is that what it is? That you watched it but didn't like it, or is it that you watched it and you can't like it, or do you have to have an account to like something, or can anybody like it? I was watching somebody the other day that had sort of like 100,000 views and sort of like half of them were likes. It was absolutely unbelievable. I suppose I should be grateful because I've got no unlikes or dislikes, haven't I? That's a better word, Ian. Dislike, yeah. I got no dislikes, so that's good. So it's really pleased that one person liked it. 29 views is good. 29 views is good. I don't know whether or not that is people what I should do, or should I? You know, it's a bit scary to look at analytics. You know, it always worries me because it sort of like says, oh, hang on. It says peak current. Oh no, that's for the live stream. That's no good. So 20 views and 5 likes, and I got 29 views and 1 like. So I'm happy, guys. I'm happy. I think we're going to knock this views on the head now. I think we're going to knock that on the head. We're not going to carry on with that. You know, if you'd like to come and watch it, then that's absolutely fine. If you'd like to press that thumbs up button, then that's absolutely fine as well. Because otherwise, I think it's going to do my head in after a while. And I'm going to get really hung up about the number of views I've got and everything like that. And it won't be good. It won't be good. The other thing that I must say is that I think I might take a break from Wilson Waffling Live for a while, mainly because I think most people are out on holiday now and sort of like away. I might change the format a little bit. I'm not too sure. We'll wait and see. But I might be on next week. I might not. I might take a break and then come back with episode 76. I'm determined to get to 100 no matter what. After that, no idea what will happen, but up to that point I am determined to get to 100. The most consecutive videos I've made on YouTube was 54. So I once did 54 days in a row on YouTube. That was on my other channel, on my InWills channel. But this one's 75 episodes, and they're all there. You can go right the way back to the beginning if you wish to watch them. So what have I got in store for you tonight? Well, as always, we've got the tweets of the week, which is rather sparse this week, just like last week, because a lot of the students now are off on holiday. So tweeting's down to a bare minimum at the present moment in time. So I do have the website roundup, and I'm keeping with the new format. But I was watching a podcast, a guy who makes podcasts during the week, and he actually doesn't script. I've been scripting the whole lot, so you can probably see me reading it. I've gone for more bullet points this week to see whether or not that's any better. We've then got teacher tidbits, and if you remember last week we had Fun with Nature part 1. This week we're going to have Fun with Nature part 2, and then finally, if I can find my phone, yes, it's there, we're going to have Ask with Waffling Wilson. So at the beginning, at the start of every sort of like show, what I like to do is give you what I call in school a soda. Okay, and what it starts for start of day activity. This is a bit of a few ideas. Do you know? I just had a thought there. I wonder whether or not keeping to the same format every week is a bit boring. I wonder whether or not that's why we don't get so many viewers. It could be that it's just the general content, and maybe if I was doing the cinnamon challenge or chugging tequilas or something like that, then I don't drink, by the way, guys, so don't even ask that. Or eating raw I don't know, raw carrots or something like that, then perhaps if I did a challenge that would bring in the viewers. But anyway, we're not, so don't. No, I'm not going there. Anyway, start of day activity. So this is a start of day activity that you could do with your children this week or even next week. And it's interesting that I've taken this from a recent news article, because over the weekend I was seeing that Tim Peake has returned to Earth after spending 6 months on the International Space Station. I don't know if you know this, but the International Space Station actually is 250 miles above the surface of the Earth in high orbit. And from Scarborough to London is only 258 miles. So it's about the same distance up than it is Scarborough to London, which I thought was interesting. Anyway, when he came down, he looked rather hot and rather green because the shuttle, the capsule, had turned over a while. And I watched a news video of him this morning, still very dizzy and being propped up because he's getting used to Earth's gravity again. And somebody did say that he felt like he had a really, really bad hangover. That's what he felt. So anyway, imagine what I would like the children to do is imagine that they've been out in space, or they've been somewhere, and they've been on an expedition somewhere, and they've come back and they have to give an interview. They have to write a short speech. So you could link this to a topic. So for example, you could, if you're doing ancient Egypt, you could say that the children just come back from Tutankhamun's, ooh, there's a fly. Anybody see that fly? If you can see that fly, kill it. I hate flies. I'm all shivery now. Anyway, they imagine that it could be Howard Carter coming back from Tutankhamun. But the idea is they have to write a short speech. So it could be imaginary plays, or it could be a book or real trip, But the idea is that they have to imagine that they're there in front of the masses of people and they're going to give a short interview. And you can give them some prompts like, what would they talk about? What did they think about the adventure? What did they miss when they were out on this adventure? And the idea is just to give a short speech about 30 seconds long, and that's it. So remember, the children could do anything with it. They could actually record it, or they could write it, or they could actually, get those iPads out and film it. That would be absolutely fantastic. So that's my soda of for this week. And we're going to go straight into, without further ado, we're going to go into the rather limited tweet of the week. Tweets of the week. There we go. So I've moved you over a bit. Let's get rid of let's just move those out. So remember, you can follow me on Twitter at iWilsonYSJ, or you can follow the hashtag YSJPrimeEd to see what we're up to and about. So let's get some tweets in, shall we? So the first years finished last Friday. So they finished the last day of university, and they're all gone, and they're all done and dusted, and finished for the summer. And so they finished on placement, and they come back for one last day. So a lot of the students were talking about placement. And here's Alison saying, going to be a sad day today, leaving my lovely SE1 class for the final time. Could not have asked for a better class of children. And here's Rachel. Rachel tweeted, gutted I won't be working with SE1 class again, but pleased to have passed first year and got my first for final assignment. So all the assignments are back now. All the assignments are back, and they're on track now for some good marks heading off into year 2. And then we've got this one from Molly. And Molly said, last day of placement, I don't want to leave. Crying face there. Yeah, it's quite, you get really used to your class, and it's really sad when eventually you have to leave. But the students have done a lot of things while they've been on placement. They've done lots of teaching. And Sophie here, and this is just one of Sophie's pictures, but Sophie actually has been going around changing the classroom displays here. So getting some geography into our class Euro. I can't see what, let me just blow it up here. Getting some geography into our class Euro bets. Was quite proud of this one. So obviously linking to the European Cup there. Is my sound a little bit quiet? Is it quiet? Hang on, let me just have a listen. Geography into our... No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I'll live with that. So I'm sorry, it's been a bit of a quiet week with regard to Twitter. But remember, you can follow me at iWilsonYSJ, or you can follow the hashtag at YSJPrimeEd, and by all means, tweet away to us and let us know what you're doing in your summer holidays. Okay, let me know. And also remember that pretty soon, before you know, I know people are still doing exams and leading up to A levels, etc. But eventually, so I've got a really itchy nose, guys. You know when you get that hay fever feeling, any minute. If I try to sneeze, if I suddenly go like this, whoop, then you know that it's happened. So we're coming to those A-level results. And don't forget that on A-level day, on the actual A-level day, YSJ, York St John University, is going to be having a live radio broadcast from Wilson Waffling Radio, and we're going to be sending out your dedication. We're going to be playing lots of music and having a fun time. So please make sure that you go over to wilsonwafflingradio.co.uk and check out the radio button there, and you can listen to the radio. It's up at the present moment in time, but we will be more focused on A-level results on A-level day. So if you've got a request, on that day, then send it in. Or even better, if you want to give a dedication to someone, then that'll be a perfect time to do it. So let's crack on. We've had the tweets of the week. So now let's go forward and have some website roundup. I'm here now. Yeah. Whoops. Right, let's just get rid of the Twitter thing. So, welcome to this week's website roundup. So this is when I give you a quick roundup of some of the news items that I've seen on BBC webpage, The Guardian, educational websites to bring you up to date with what's happening. So this is the first story that talks about more schools actually using pupil premium to offset cuts in budgets. Okay, then now there is a rising number of schools in England who are diverting the money that is meant to be for disadvantaged pupils into offsetting budget cuts, okay, according to an education charity. So they actually the Sutton Trust polled about 1,600 teachers, and 6% of them said that pupil premium money was used to offset budget cuts, compared to only 2% last year. So as the budget cuts are increasing, more and more of the pupil premium is being used to offset this. Now, I don't know if you're aware what pupil premium is, but it was introduced in about 2011, and it's to support the education of disadvantaged schools, and it's paid into schools for any child who is eligible for free school meals, FSM, and they can be eligible at any point during the previous 6 years, okay? And for pupils who have been in care for more than 6 months, okay? Now, just to let you know about, if you want to imagine how much money is actually given out, this year, a pupil premium sort of like lump sum is 1,320 for primary pupils and £935 for secondary pupils. So it's quite a big chunk. And really and truly, the school should use this money to support that child's education in consultation with parents and teachers, etc. And it was interesting that many schools do actually use this, and a large variety do. But, however, there is this new sort of like feeling that this money is used to offset budget cuts. And when it was interesting because people have been saying that it's the chronic underfunding that means that the schools are having to use this money up for, offsetting budget, paying for teachers, etc., instead of giving it to the children. Benefit the children's education, not giving it to them. So for me, I think this is the classic impact of underfunding. Schools have money which is allocated for them, and they need to find a way to make a limited amount of money work. Now, you have to acknowledge at this point now there must be lots of money, and the government is giving less and less and less money, but this money is for a very specific purpose. And I think the government needs to recognise that if the charity sees that this money is being paid to do budget offsets, then there's a real problem with the funding. And the government needs to address this as soon as possible rather than letting it continue. And if you think about it, is it the case of having pencils and paper? Is that what, if the school's using it for that, then surely you'll need that as well as having the pupil support as well. So the next story that I've got for you today is about homeschooling. Okay, homeschooling. And it's really interesting that currently parents do not need to tell their local authority at all when a child is being taught at home unless they have been removed from school. Okay, so like dismissed or anything like that. Now, Portsmouth and Reading are among the councils who want to establish after a register. Okay, after the number of home taught children rose by 65%. Okay, it rose by 65% between 2009 and 2015. So there's a growing number of parents who are deciding to educate their children at home. Now, parents say that the state should not dictate what is best for children, and the Department of Education said home education needs to be of suitable quality, and there are very, very in capital letters, small concerns in some cases. I think this article was really funny because one of the women on the article actually said, if you want to come and check up what's happening, then by all means come along. You know where we are. They've been taught at home. The interesting thing is, she said that also that the children are learning all the time. It's not just between 9 and 3. The children are learning all the time, going out on trips, even going to the supermarket. They're learning. They might be doing mathematics and things like that. I understand that the DFE really wants to make sure that children are safe, and this is very important. And remember, they only had some concerns in a very small number of situations. However, I'm really concerned when the DFE says they need to measure how effective homeschools are, because every time they mention measure, I suddenly think that what they're going to do is implement a national test or more testing. Here's a test to see whether or not you're being educated at home as well. And I think, no, we're not going there. Surely we are not going there. So anyway, were you homeschooled? Do you think it was a good idea? Do you think it's a good idea in general? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. So next, let's talk about the brain. And I did neurophysiology at university, so I really like the brain and I really like how it works and trying to understand it. And what this story says from The Guardian here is that the brain is a muscle, and we often hear that where the brain is a muscle, and you know that they're saying a lot of the time you have to exercise your brain, so you have to sort of like sit and work at it. And it's interesting that this analogy of a brain like a muscle doesn't actually work. And what it's talking about in this article is that the hippocampus, which is at is the core for the brain's learning and memory system, is actually stimulated by engaging with physical activity. So you could actually be up and about, and that would actually promote brain activity and therefore hence learning. It actually helps memories become stickier, and that's the word they use in the article, when you exercise. Okay. The interesting thing is creativity, thinking more creative, thinking more divergently, actually improves if you're going on a long walk, according to this article. And if you go on a long walk, then it actually gets better. The interesting thing is that if you want to think more covertly, really focus down on something, then a long walk will not help that at all. You know, it only helps you think more imaginative. It's interesting that when they say physical activity, they're not telling everybody to go out and join a gym. It's more sort of like some form of physical exercise. So it might be sort of like bouncing 2 balls, one with each hand, for about 10 minutes, or walking, or doing anything is better than nothing. So I'm going with walking backwards and forwards to work. I must admit, when I am walking backwards and forwards to work, it gets my head thinking, and I come up with loads of creative ideas. The trouble is, I can't finalize anything, which would actually link to this this article. The other really interesting article that I found as well was this one about Steiner schools, and about how Steiner schools are actually becoming more and more popular. And the interesting thing about this is that it actually comes to the point, the reason it was being discussed is that they were saying that Steiner schools have a point on children and tablets and tech, in the sense that they do not use tech and tablets or anything to support children's learning. And the really interesting thing about the article that I found was that, yes, there was some really good, basic skills going on within Steiner schools. And the thing that I liked about it was the removal of that prescriptive education and allowing children to develop as individuals and being imaginative. And there was a lot of artwork and baking and things like that. And I really like that sort of education, rather than let's sit down, you have to learn this, and so. And I think in the end, it probably leads to very rounded individuals. The only thing that I would say is that naturally, as you can probably imagine, I would still want tech in it. because I think that is a part of the wider life. And I would want children to sort of like engage in everything. So I would want a complete mixture. I think it was last week there was a learning outside day when you had to learn outside, to be out in the wild, so to speak. And I would want that for the children as well, and do a whole mixture. But becoming less prescriptive, I think is really important. Now, going back to I need to get my right article up. This was a really interesting article because it's talked about understanding how the brain works can actually help mindset. So you might be familiar with Carol Dweck's work about growth and fixed mindsets. And she's a psychology professor, and she gave two groups of children, I'm reading this just so you know, am I slightly off camera? Oh, there you go. She gave two groups of children a whole day tutorial on the brain. She told the first group that parts of the brain are determined within days of conception. No new nerve cells are produced in adulthood, and the anatomy of the human brain is similar to a rat's. And then she said to the other group that your brain is constantly evolving and it's changing and remodeling itself, and that every time it experiences something new, it makes new connections. Really interesting. So these two groups, what she then followed these two groups, but they had two very different views of the brain, so to speak. 1 year later, the group that thought that the brain changes over time were doing much better across the board at school than those who thought that the brain was in a fix from conception. I think that's absolutely amazing, that maybe they had that growth mindset and actually thought that they could actually do better, and therefore were technically doing better. Now, keeping on this idea of learning, if you're interested, I think this is turning into a science show. I don't know about an education show. It's more like Wilson Waffling does science of education. This one is research all about twins and whether or not intelligence or academic performance is linked to genetics. And it's really interesting. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but if you are interested in this, by all means go over and read the article. Remember, all the links to these articles will be available on wilsonwaffling.co.uk in this week's episode waffle post. Really interesting. It says that the research shows that students' genetic makeup can have a strong influence on academic performance. Okay, wait. However, should we therefore support those students who are struggling? If their genetic makeup has already determined their academic performance, should we do anything to support them? Well, it may be destiny, but it's not the full story according to this article. And there's a lot of outside influences that actually impact on, including environmental issues, schooling, location, home life. The really interesting thing is that they've concluded, despite popular media, that there is no difference between genders, no difference at all. But if you are interested in reading the rest of this article, then remember the links are in Wilson Waffling, this week's episode of wilsonwaffling.co.uk. And I love this when this happened, all the links to the research are actually in that article, so you can go off and read more and more and more. Now then, let me call up this one, because this one is a really interesting one. Because today, or just a while back, the Comres interviewed 750 English children weighted by age, gender and region to be representative of England about their Key Stage Year 6 Key Stage 2 tests, aged 10 to 11. And they asked the children, what did they think? And, you know, there was all that doom and gloom about the SAT. Anyway, this is what the children said. When asked what the children thought about the tests, 62% said that they enjoyed or didn't mind them. So over half said they enjoyed them or didn't mind them. And 38% said that they didn't like or hate them. Okay, so more than half actually didn't mind or enjoy them. When asked how they felt towards the test, the most common words chosen were nervous, 59%, worried, 39%, stressed, 27%, and confident, 21%. So 59% nervous. I would be nervous as well. You know, I think that about test is fine. Most children, 79% of them, said that they felt some pressure to do well in school tests, but the vast majority, 81%, thought that they had enough time to relax after school during the week. 81%. A quarter of the children actually said that they found it hard to concentrate when they had tests, with slightly more worrying about their schoolwork or wanting to show how much they knew, getting about 30% each. So really interesting there when we're actually focusing on the children, what the children think are different. And remember, the sample size for that was 750 children. So it would be interesting to sort of, you know, if you think about doing any research in the future, I think that would be a really good thing to focus on. Now then, I did have another article. Oh, here it is, because it's got a teddy bear on it. And this really caught my eye, actually, because if you go along to wilsonwaffling.co.uk, I actually used the same picture about 2 weeks ago. And this is a brief article. It's just about how children have been setting up a blog about book reviews and working alongside the teacher on it. So it's a really good article, and by all means go along, and there's also a link to the book review blog post that they actually put up. And remember that using Blogspot, which is free with Gmail, or wordpress.com, you can have your free WordPress or blog totally free, and it's quite easy to set up. Please remember that all, oh hang on, let me put you on to full page with the funny thing. Please remember that links to all the articles can be found in this week's Waffle, episode 75, on wilsonwaffling.co.uk. And that concludes this week's website roundup. Oh, that was a bit of a pause, wasn't it? That was a bit of a... Right, it's time for the teacher tidbits. Yeah, this is when I share with you some ideas. And if you remember last week, we talked about fun with nature, and we talked about birds. And I mentioned about making birds' nests and looking at bird bingo, etc. So if you missed that episode, then please go along to wilsonwaffling.co.uk or go to last week's YouTube video and you can watch it again. So I would like to this week expand on that topic and give you some more ideas that I came up with, or actually administered and implemented with the children. So the first thing I would like to talk about is when I actually, right at the beginning of the project, I did what's known as a KWL sheet, what the children know, what they want to learn, what they learned, and then you do the L bit after the topic. And one of the questions that came up in that sort of like KWL sheet, can you hear that fly? If you see it, guys, tell me. I don't like flies. Anyway, I better not be a wasp. Anyway, concentrate. One of the questions that came up was, why do birds fly away in winter? Can you hear it? Oh. You probably can't hear it. Ooh. Well, hopefully it won't land me. Anyway, let's concentrate. So why do birds fly away in winter? So what I did was that I devised a travel agency for birds. And what we did is that we collected information about their holiday locations for birds. And we looked at the idea that we were going on holiday and the birds went on holiday over winter, and we plotted where they actually came from. And we found these on the map. And the distance that the birds had actually travelled from England to these other places. Then we actually compared it to the children's holidays locations. And then we talked about walking to those locations. And the idea is that, what would it be like if you had to walk to Spain? And how far that was. Because if we were talking about birds don't catch a plane, they actually get there through their own energy, their own steam, so to speak. And we really practiced geographical skills. We looked at where these places were, whether or not they were north, south, or east or west, or what the distances, and we looked at scales and things like that. So that was really interesting. We also, of course, went out. And I was lucky enough to be really close a local university where there was a big pond, a big lake with lots of water birds on. And I thought this would be a really good idea because when we got there, the birds were actually static. Okay, and we all bought binoculars, and a lot of the children brought binoculars from home, including some toy ones. I bought my binoculars and gave it to a child, if they didn't have any, they could put them around their neck and feel like a proper bird watcher. That was the important thing. And then we went around, and due to the bird bingo and everything like that, the children were very good at spotting these birds. And I remember walking down the street 2 by 2 with my TAs and everything, and the children were calling out magpie, blackbird, wood pigeon as they saw the birds. We also stopped at what's known as the Lone Moor, which is quite open grassland, and it was really nice that the children could see crows and rooks and jackdaws and things like that. We were hoping, fingers crossed, for a kestrel, but it didn't appear. I really wanted the children to see a kestrel. We also, when we got to university, we went around the lake and we saw tufted ducks and mallards, and we also noticed the difference between Canada geese and barnacle geese and everything like that. We had a quick break there with morning snacks, and then I mentioned the story about how barnacle geese got their name, because they used to be at the shore, then they used to disappear, and the sailors used to think they'd actually turned into the barnacles that were on the rocks. Anyway, so we created a survey. We noted down the birds that we had found. The other thing that we did do is that I like to use technology, as you can imagine, and our IT topic for that week or that term was databases. So we used a program called Junior Viewpoint, and we created our own database, and we actually put some interesting facts in about their where they went, what they would eat, any distinguishing marks, and then we did quizzes and we interrogated the database by asking questions. We also used Google Maps to see how far they had actually gone, where they would actually end up, and of course we also took photographs with digital cameras as they were in those days, and we took photographs of the birds, etc. This was more sort of like the lakeside birds because we could zoom in and get a lot closer to it. So as you can imagine, we had quite a wonderful time, and the children really got to understand birds, and remember, throughout the school, everybody else is doing something else. So you could think about activities you could do with trees or flowers or mini beasts or insects or worms or anything like that. But the idea is just to get out there and enjoy nature and get some ideas about nature and what's going on, and really sort of like engaging with those ideas with technically what is fun with nature. So I hope that's given you some ideas. And by all means, if you do implement any of them, then let me know in the comments below what you've been up to, and that would be absolutely fantastic. So if you want to read the whole article, then of course it is on wilsonwaffling.co.uk. Just search for the keyword nature and you'll find it there. So let's go. We're cracking through it today, I tell you. Let's go on with the next thrilling episode or segment of the show, Ask Waffling Wilson.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is...
Ask Waffling Wilson.
Please note, the new number is...
Ask Waffling Wilson.
Hello. I'm back. So this is the time that I go to my mobile app and I look at the questions that you have sent me. And I never know what's coming up. Oh, there's only one question today. I expect that. There's normally about one or two, but today there's only one question. And right. Okay then. It says, do you like parties with 12 people or parties with 60 people? Now, I think that's probably just arbitrary numbers. Basically, what they're saying, I think, is that do I like small parties or big parties? Right. Here goes. I quite like big parties because I can get lost in a crowd and I can just end up sitting there, which means I can just sit in a corner very quietly. Everybody will ignore me and I can leave early. I'm one of those people who... People feel that they should invite me to a party, but I'm not very comfortable in a party, or I never get invited to parties. It's one or the others. And if I do go, I'm not sort of like the life and soul of the party. I tend to just sit in a corner by myself like this, a bit of a wallflower like that. If it's a small group, then I'm probably a little bit better. But because I don't drink, I'm not one to drink wine or anything like that. So I'm not sort of like, I don't think I relax very well. If I had a choice, I think I would probably go to small. So like 12. 12 still a lot for me, but 12 seems a good idea. 12 rather than 60. Have you ever been to a wedding when the only people you know at the wedding are the bride and groom, and then you don't know anybody else, and you're just like sat there thinking, I have no idea who you lot are, and you only see the bride and groom for a fixed amount of time in any case. So yes, so whoever sent me that question, 12. I would definitely go to 12. So that's the end. If you do ever want to ask me any questions, then by all means, you can go along to wilsonwaffling.co.uk. Here it is. I'll just go down in the corner there. Here is their site. And then if you go onto this site and you come right the way up to the top, there's a button there that says Ask Me. And if you press on that button, it takes you to this way with me, a rather startled look on my face there. You can see this was, what is your favourite class in school? Do you judge people quickly? Are you a hot weather or cold weather sort of person? Does your name have a meaning? Anyway, they're all there, look. All the questions I've ever answered. You get videos for a lot of them, but further down, do you know, look, I've just seen that. That video there is when we used to have a quiz. Episode 57, we were still doing a quiz called Draw Something. We don't do that anymore. Anyway, you can see it goes right the way back. Right the way back. There's the Draw Something quiz, look. Which book could this be? Right the way back. Anyway, it goes right the way back, so you can... Then we don't have videos for them all. Which subjects could you use Minecraft to enhance learning and higher? Definitely mathematics. If you could travel to any country in the world, where would you go? Somewhere wet and windy, like the place in the Twilight films. Fantastic. Excellent. So, oh, that's the wrong one. Wrong one. So I'm going to come back up. There I go. So that's the end of episode 75 of Wilson Waffling Live. I hope you've enjoyed it. I never know. Whenever I do Wilson Waffling Live, there's one person in the chat or one viewer in the chat. And I never know whether or not it's me or not. And there's one person and they're always there all the way through. And they're sort of like my dedicated follower. And I hope it is a follower, because if it's just me, then I've just done the whole show to myself. But they don't talk. But I hope it is somebody. And if you are watching, and they tend to watch it, they tend to tune in as soon as I start broadcasting. So I don't know. If you are watching, whoever you are, thank you. I appreciate it. Remember, if you're watching this on the recorded on YouTube, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That's absolutely fantastic. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, which is brilliant. If you have any comments about the show at all, then by all means add them in the comments below, either on YouTube or on wilsonwaffling.co.uk. Wilson Waffling Live will probably take a bit of a break for the summer now since everybody is gone. But don't forget, I will be back round with A-level results, so you can tune in and have a listen to Wilson Waffling Radio. If you are interested in going to the radio station, then by all means you can go along to wilsonwafflingradio.co.uk. Here it comes, and listen in. It's on 24/7. We have a wonderful auto DJ called Alvin who plays the music, and there's live shows throughout the evening. On Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. So by all means listen in. Hope you've enjoyed this week's version of Wilson Waffling Live, and I hope that you will press that like button and leave me some comments, because it would be absolutely fantastic. Hope you've enjoyed it, guys, and I would like you all to have fun, and I'll catch you all later. And until that time, consider yourself waffled.
Wilson Waffling.